Welcome back to another episode. In today's discussion, our guest shares about some early traumas in her life. Some of those topics are of a sensitive nature and meant for a more mature audience.
And as with every story that involves God, there is healing and redemption also. So let's get started.
Please just hold your breath. Every door looks better when you keep it closed. Keep your head down and don't watch your step. No point in even trying now, just let it go. Maybe they will write the same for me. Maybe this was really just a dream. Don't wanna take that risk and try to see a 9 to 5 open security, I'm sure, but I can guarantee you that's no way to live. Way to live. Promise that's no way to live. Way to live.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to Prodigal Peas in a Pod. I am still Denise Acosta, and you are
Still Brooke Ackerman. You crack me up that you say that.
Okay, and so today we have an awesome special guest with us, Polly. Hi, Polly.
I'm still Polly.
I love it. And so you guys may not know who Polly is, and this is my first time meeting Polly, but you may have heard Polly mentioned in maybe just about every episode so far. And that is for all good reasons. And so I would like to ask Brooke if she could do a little intro on Polly.
Yes, this is Polly Hamp, and it is truly a privilege to have her on here and just to know her and have her be a part of my life. She is an amazing person, has done incredible things, and just a few of those are she is an author, she is a speaker, she's an entrepreneur, and in my opinion, she's just an all-around amazing human being. And so we're so excited to get to talk to her today about all of the things going on in her life.
Yay! So in the last few episodes, many episodes, we've been talking a lot about calling, what it looks like for us, challenges, when to recognize if we are working for God rather than from God. And so today we are going to focus on what it looks like when your calling is shifted. So maybe you've started out something and you know for sure that that's where God has called you, and now there's something else, and that wasn't part of the plan in the beginning. And so we have the luxury of having Polly with us, who has walked this out personally. And so we would just love to hear more about that. We want her to share with you guys, and me too, because this will be my first time hearing this. So Polly, if you could share a little bit about your testimony and kind of how things got started.
Oh, okay. I was born. And
Yay!
that's how it all started. But just really first, I just want to say thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited. I love what y'all are doing. I love your energy and the message that y'all are speaking and giving out, but also just loving people and then inviting me into the conversation. So I really appreciate it. So thank y'all. And I love this conversation because it's an interesting one, because as an entrepreneur, I have many people in my family lineage that are entrepreneurs. And so it's fun to watch. Like, my grandpa was a chiropractor. He owned his own practice. He did his own studies. And then my biological father was a contractor. He built houses and things like that. So just very entrepreneur business based. So I grew up with that mindset. My second chance daddy, I'll talk about that in a second, was in theater. And so I have a very entrepreneurial mind and experience growing up. And it was something that's never been scary for me, except it's terrifying. And
I was like, wow.
401ks, there are if you create them. But all that to say, it's something that I grew up with. And so I love this conversation of what is your calling, be it whether you're in a 9 to 5 job and you work for somebody, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're a stay-at-home mom, or whatever it is. It's like we have shifts in our lives, and each shift creates something new for us. And if we're so rigid and hold on to what we think we're supposed to be, then we might miss the very thing that we get to grow into. And so I think there's something really important to look at. You're going to hear my story, and you may not be an entrepreneur, and you may be like, that sounds terrifying, or man, I wish I could do that. And we can listen to each other's stories and compare, or we can listen to them and go, that gives me something to look toward in my own journey, be curious and open to understand that this is who I'm getting to grow into and be. And it's interesting because I've spent a little bit of time, actually, in the last couple of months, looking back at what I've done. I use ChatGPT and I really appreciate it. I write all my stuff, but I'm an editor's nightmare. And oh, Brooke was my editor. She knows. I'm a grammatical nightmare. And so ChatGPT can take some of my blogs and things like that and make them sound really good and grammatically correct, which is lovely. And so I'm very grateful for it. However, I put in a question. What are 10 blind spots that I have in my journey to what I'm doing in my businesses and things like that? And one of them was, you don't stop and look at what you've done. You don't stop and look back and celebrate the things that you've done. You just keep going. And I'm like, oh, ouch. And it's this thing of, I just got to keep going because, I mean, stopping, what's that going to do? Yeah. And so but it's like that thing, there's an importance of, there's a reason why in scripture they would stop and build a monument for something. They would stop and do a celebration. They would stop and do their feasts and festivals until God says, I hate your feasts and festivals. Right. And all these things. But it's this important place of us to pause and look back. And so I think this is a really fun question because we can look back at the path and each thing that we get to do grows us. Again, I grew up in a very entrepreneur-focused family. However, it was incredibly abusive. I was sexually abused starting at a very young age. And that ended around 7 or 8 years old. And from that, just everything that I believed about intimacy and safety and protection and men was destroyed. And so instead of being, you can go a couple of different ways when you have that kind of abuse. Actually, you can go several different ways, but the way that I went was very extroverted, and I started using drugs, alcohol, highly promiscuous at a very young age because that's what I learned what love was. And so by the time I was 14, I've had rapes, pregnancy and abortion, sneaking out, just doing incredibly destructive actions because I'm screaming, somebody see me, somebody help me. However, nobody knew how to help. Mm-hmm. And through that, just this life of survival and trying to be one thing and then being shredded and hurt and then trying to be another thing and keep trying out these different hats. I was a tennis player, I was an athlete, but then also I was using drugs and partying and just all of these divisions in my life and trying to make it work. I'm telling this story because it's really pertinent to one of the callings I had later on in life. But when I got into college, which was a miracle in itself, because I was that girl that was failing second and third grade. Second and third graders don't fail. And I was, because of the things that was happening to me. And I hated school. I hated it so much. And so the fact that I actually graduated from high school was a miracle in itself. And I pretty much give a lot of credit to my coach, tennis coach, because there was the whole no pass, no play rule. If you don't pass, you don't play. And I loved to play because I loved hitting that ball hard. And I was really good at it and really competitive. And I get into college and with a trauma background, I hyper compartmentalized, and I went into college going, this is my chance to be the good girl. I'm going to be an art major, film minor. I loved animation. I'm an abstract artist now, but I really loved cell animation. So Warner Brothers, I really wanted to work for Warner Brothers or Disney and draw for them. And so I go into college to do that. And within just a month or so, I'm approached by this guy that I knew from high school. I graduated in Dallas. And he's, hey, I'm DJing at this strip club. Would you be interested in dancing? And there was this moment where I was like, this is my chance to control men. This is my chance to be in charge. This is my chance where I can say yes or I can say no. And if I say yes, you are going to pay me a lot of freaking money for it. And I will tell you that that level of thought process is actually from the pit of hell because that world is so painful. It's distorted and toxic and harmful. So much so that the girls, us girls that were in the club, any part of the sex industry, we have stage names. And my stage name was Blaze, and that'll be important here in a little bit. But my stage name was Blaze because I was a bit of a fireball and still am, and which is good. But so that kind of just setting the stage of the trajectory of my life and in the compartmentalization. So I danced for about 2 years before I sat in the parking lot with a gun in my lap and almost took my life. And at that time, I was actually seeing a counselor. I was actually going to Alcoholics Anonymous while I'm dancing at a club, going to AA. It's like this split in your soul. I was atheist at the time and did not believe in God. And I know now that the voice that I heard in the parking lot to not take my life was God. I didn't know that then. And ended up in a halfway house for a little while and got some healing. However, the healing that I got, I might have left the industry. I never danced again, but the industry hadn't left me yet. And so it was very much still the pain and the trauma. And so I was 20 when I finished dancing. And then life happened, and then at 23, I get pregnant and end up marrying the guy that I get pregnant with. We end up having twins, which was crazy. Identical twins, and they were born at 27 weeks, and the doctor said if they live, they're going to be severely mentally, physically challenged. And this is when I started seeing miracles. This is when I started recognizing miracles. I can look back and look at all the miracles now, but actually recognizing them. And my daughters are 29 years old right now, and you can't even tell they were premature. And so they're true miracles. So the reason why I share that part of the story is to segue into the places that I have heard God speak very clearly in my calling. And first it was mom, and I'm still highly traumatized, compartmentalized. I went from living this crazy life to now being a stay-at-home mom. And now I'm going to mom. Oh my gosh. Do I have the skills to do this? And they're still alive. So I did, which was great. Got them through. And then several years later, back in, let me see here. Gosh, 2010. My girls were 14. I was homeschooling them. You can tell. Oh, by the way, I came to know the Lord in 99, October of 99, after the girls turned 3 years old. And it was just like, just seeing these miracles, God showing up, the softening of my heart. There's something about becoming a mom too that I think softened my heart and opened up my eyes as well. But then I came to know the Lord, but it wasn't one of those life-changing moments. It's like, yay, I know the Lord. And then just life goes on. And so I still had issues with alcohol. I still had incredible trauma. It's just, life was very difficult. My marriage was very difficult. It was hard. And so in 2010, I'm homeschooling my girls. There's a lot of things that happened before this, but the very first calling was I heard God very clearly tell me he wanted me to reach back out to the women in the strip clubs. And I'm like, no, you are dumb. That is ridiculous. I'm in a Southern Baptist church. And like I am a homeschool mom.
Right.
I coach volleyball. Like I'm no, nobody knows my story. Nobody. My now ex-husband knew my story, but very few people knew my story. And so it's like we don't share that. God, like that part, that's in a nice package,
Yes.
buried in the backyard with all the other bones we don't want to talk about. And he clearly had other plans. And so I remember arguing with him. I'm like, I am absolutely not going to do this. And I had taken this lovely verse out of context. None of us do that. And put it,
I don't think we've
yeah,
ever done that.
Nope.
we are but Christians. We do not take verses out of context and put them in cute little cross frames and put them in our kitchen counter. And so I had this lovely, and it's Leviticus, I think it's 2:19. And it's like, pour your heart out for the Lord, for the love of your children. I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. And it's going to sit on my counter because I pray that. And I love all of that. And I got it from a Bible study and all of this. And I'm arguing with God and I slam my Bible down. I'm like, fine, show me. And opens up to that Leviticus. I'm almost positive it's Leviticus 2:19. Lamentations, sorry. Lamentations 2:19. And it says, pour out your heart for the lives of your children who faint from the head of every street. At the head of every street. Watches of the night. It starts with, I took that part out for some reason because it didn't fit my narrative frame. And it was like, in the watches of the night, pour out your heart like water in the presence of the Lord. For the children who at the, are starving at the head of every street. When I read the watches of the night, like I collapsed because I was like, we are called, the women in the sex industry are called women of the night. And the watches of the night were just like, he was there. He was even in the strip clubs, not just the women, but the men too. He's there. And it's the darkest place. All of that industry is so dark. Film, porn,
Yeah.
being prostituted. It's not prostitution. Being prostituted, being in the strip club, all of that is so dark. And God's there in the watches of the night. And so I said yes to the Lord and started a ministry that reached out to women in the sex industry and did that. And it exploded. It grew. It was huge. I trained people nationwide, had opportunities to work with some of the most amazing ministries that do this kind of work, do all different kinds of trainings, and then also going into, there were at the time 40 plus strip clubs in the DFW area, and we would go to every single one of them and take gift bags and just love on them right there and invite them to come and taste and see. So we had weekly groups, support groups, all of that. So develop this whole program, whole process to be able to help women who were either currently in the industry or had been in it 20 years ago and never wanted to share their story. I want to make a point real quick and then I'll pause there because I know I keep talking. But the point I want to make real quick is I was so afraid that my story was going to scare everybody away. I was so afraid that 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 what I had done in my past was like nobody wanted to hear that, and then that people would keep their children away from my children, and that I would be shamed, I would be pushed away, pushed out. That never happened. Never. And I think there was part of me that like, please let that happen so I don't have to do this because I don't want to talk about this part of my life. and and but I just, in that place, I just want to encourage you as a listener, but all of us, it's like the things that we fear when God calls you to something, the things that we probably fear the most will more than likely never ever come to fruition because God's like, hey, I got this covered. I called you to this. Remember when you threw the Bible down, you were all mad and the content. all that is you were afraid of is yeah, no, I knew that. I knew and but it never I never had the pushback or the fear because of my story. It was welcomed, it was refreshing, and vulnerability begets vulnerability. And so I think there's something important is like if we're sharing our story for glory, if we're sharing our story for praise and validation, then that's humanism. But if you've been called to it, God's going to cover what he says he's going to cover. And it may not look what you may get pushback. You might. I'm not saying but you will be able to stand in the face of the pushback because he's called you to it if that were to happen.
The whole not wanting to share a certain part of your story really resonates for me. For many years, didn't want to share about my past and things that I have on my ledger. And I got into jail ministry and I went for like my second level interview thing with the director of that ministry at the time. And I had to share about my experience of being in there and what I felt like and what my thought process was like. And I had been so used to when you share something like that, it's always a negative response that you're getting. When you have a felony on your record, you got to report that for any place you're applying to live, for your job, like for anything. And so there's never anything good that comes with it. And I remember sharing my story to his name is Mike. And it was the first time in my life where it was like, wow, that's so great. And all this positiveness about it, like what God did for you. It'll be such a great asset for jail ministry. And it's great. I love jail ministry now. But it was the first time that it was a positive response. And I remember going back into my Jeep afterwards and I was just crying because it was like it had never happened. And even then, as far as I've been doing it, the whole congregation doesn't know. And now there's a documentary they've been doing and I shared it in there. And so we'll see if people catch it. But it's the same thing. I'm not afraid of it anymore. And it was definitely something that held me back. And I would say that that's definitely from the enemy because people do need to hear these things. They do need to hear these stories because that's something that they can relate to and it's encouraging. So I'm just really grateful for you and sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for sharing yours. Thank you for being great because it is that it's like the kind of what line do you cross and do you cross it? And are you called to share your story? I think there's so many questions that are wrapped around that. But I think it's so important, no matter the context, is that your heart is connected to it and you're doing it to glorify God, not to glorify self. Yeah. And I love that you got the goodness from it. It's like, finally.
Yeah.
You probably didn't say that. You're like, oh, this is great.
Basically, that's what it looked like in my Jeep. Were you there?
Yeah. Oh, I saw it, yeah.
And what I love about, and it is hard to share the difficult things, but like you said, vulnerability begets vulnerability. And if we don't share the hard things, then we don't get to see how God is always about restoration. He's always about restoration. And if we hold those pieces back, then we don't get to see what it is that he is doing in people and through people. And that's beauty from ashes. That's the miracle of it. That's where our stories are holy. And if we don't share the hard things, then we don't get to see the beauty in it. But I agree with you. Not everybody gets to hear your story because not everybody's going to handle your heart well. And so you do need to have some discretion on who gets to hear this. It's not just, I'm going to blast it from the rooftops to everybody all the time because that cannot go well at times.
Until you do a documentary. or you write a book.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
We should talk about that.
My first edition went out in 2013, and this is my third edition. And I remember when I got, I was like, oh no, I can't get it back. It's gone. It's out there. But we all have our layers. Like we all have, what we're called to do. And maybe you're called to write a book, maybe not. Maybe you're called to do a documentary, maybe not. But it's like, where do you share your story? And it will be the context in which you're called to do it when you're called to do it. Yeah.
That I really liked how you worded recognize miracles versus just seeing them. We get caught up in that often. Oh, does God still do miracles? And as simple as the sun rising and setting is a miracle in itself. Sometimes we take these things for granted, but also just the more time you spend in relationship with the Lord, you start, like you said, recognizing. You see, I usually like to phrase God in the details. So it's whether it's an interaction, it's a conversation, it's a picture, it's a verse taken out of context in a frame. Because I definitely took a verse out of context. I guess definitely is questionable now that we've talked about it in the last episode. But so yeah, I liked how you phrased that. I think that's the key word there
Thank
is
you.
being able to recognize it.
Because it's like if you look back when I was atheist, if I can look back at my life and go, there were miracle after miracle after miracle. I just didn't know what they were because I would turn the back on the very God that, and I did because I'm like, how could a God so great let such horrible things happen to a little girl? Was my stance. And he answered that question very clearly for me because there is evil in the world and there is free will. And he's like, did I ever want that for you? Absolutely not. And it can be very complicated when you go through trauma and navigating that and then navigating God within the context of trauma. And so it's a hard place, and each of us get to have that opportunity to answer that question with God because I don't have the right answer for you. But I can help guide it and be a part of that process. But it's your discovery process in that. But just to segue into the whole like different callings after my divorce, I was like, I'm done with ministry. I could not do it. I had to lay it down. I still had a lot of trauma to work through. I had done a lot of healing, but not at the level that I was able to continue with the ministry. And so I laid that down in 2015, and then life shifted, and then I met the man of my dreams and got married. His name is Bob Hamp, and we got married in 2017.
Yay. Hi, Bob.
And we've had a blast. He is the think differently guy. And when we got married, it's kind of like, how do we do what we do together? And what does that look like? And so he had already had Think Differently counseling. And then I came in there and started doing coaching. He's a licensed marriage family therapist. I am a trauma recovery coach and a licensed NLP master practitioner, which are fancy words for neuro-linguistic programming, which are fancy words for how we store things in our brain and our nervous system and how we can shift them to heal in a minute. So, really quick synopsis, you can look it up. And so I went in and it was so great. We started the Think Differently Academy, which is our online academy. We have all of our classes. We are teaching, training certification, Brooke, which you are certified in, certifiable and amazing. And so is John, her husband. And so did that. And it was so great because for 7 years, I got to hide behind my door and work with one-on-one clients. And it was exactly what I needed. And it is not who I am. And let me say that let me clear that up because I love working with one-on-one clients. Like the people when you're working with clients, coaching, and you're doing trauma and relationship, and some of the stories are just devastating, and you sit there, but people are like, how do you listen to problems all day long? That's not what I do.
Yeah.
I get to sit in front of a miracle every single day. I don't listen to problems. I get to connect with solutions. I get to connect with life. I get to connect with with somebody who is hurting so bad and be a little piece of the process of them finding true wholeness and healing, whether they love God or they're atheist or whatever their background is that I get to be a part of that. And it's the biggest honor to get to do that, because when somebody trusts you with their story, when somebody trusts you with their path and what they walk, and they like, there's nothing more rewarding than getting to sit in front of somebody and experience miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to do that for 7 years and had a blast doing it, learned so much. It was really the greatest education,
Mm-hmm.
is working consistently. I have a basis and a foundation, a process and structure that helps give me a framework for what I do. But that doesn't mean Holy Spirit doesn't do other things. But it's like this thing is like, okay, I have this framework, and I get to apply that and then walk it out with people and help them find wholeness and healing. And got to do that for 7 years. And again, Bob and I we're both entrepreneurs. He still does counseling. We own a counseling network. We still have our academy. And I was called into that. And then I got to have a new calling.
So I'm hearing all these shifts and changes in the direction for where God is taking you in life. And I think one of the questions that comes to mind is, how are you feeling through all these shifts? As you're moving into something new, are you ever at any point feeling maybe not as confident in something? How did you know when you were shifting to something else? Was it like, did you have a new verse on a frame? Like,
I learned my lesson on that one. Praying verses anymore.
oh, I got him too. But
Yeah,
yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
sure. Gosh, it's all the things. I think with a calling, and there's the excitement. I don't know if you've ever done any of the personality tests. Like, I love the Strength Finders. It's probably been one of my favorite out of all the little personality tests that I've taken. And ideation is one of my top 5. And so thank God I also have strategic and developer, because ideation will not sustain you. Because I dream all the time. I'm like, oh, what if I did this? And then I could do this. And that's that thing that Chat GPT said when I asked the question, what are some of my 10 blind spots? It's like, you move from one thing to another to another. And I'm like, yeah. And I've had feedback like from my board way back when, from my other ministry. They're like, you're always on to the next thing. And I'm like, I know, let's go. And they're like, but we have to support it. And I was like, oh, sorry. And but learning how to manage that well. But it's this thing of, for me personally, is I love the creation. I love the creating. I love dreaming. I love, yeah, this is gonna be fun. Let's do this. When I went into coaching, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm excited about it. And I'm going to decorate my office and doing it for 7 years. So I had never worked outside of the home. And did that and then went into ministry, and then the divorce, and then starting to see clients. And so it was like, oh, I'm actually working. And I loved what I did, and it was exciting, but it wasn't, that one probably wasn't, this is my big dream that I want to work with people one-on-one. It was, I know I joked about it, but it's like I get to hide behind a door.
Mm.
And there was something that was both redemptive in that, but also protective. The trauma just from all of life, and then the divorce, and walking that with my kids, and going through all of that stuff and the pain, and then having this beautiful redemptive story with Bob, and all of these things. And then finally get into a safe place where your heart can rest. Man, stuff comes up when you finally stop, when you finally slow down. And it came up hard. And it was probably I would say, probably the hardest 4-ish years of my life, because I knew what was actually going on this time.
Yeah.
And I'm still seeing clients. And I want to say something. I want to be very careful how I say this. You're not disqualified when you're walking through hard stuff to be able to do ministry, to be able to work with people. However, you have to be incredibly careful and incredibly mindful that you're not spewing your pain on other people, or even your judgments or your biases are being transferred. Transference. It transferred to your client. And so I was really good at compartmentalizing already. And so but I intentionally healthily compartmentalized each client when I would go into, and especially if I had a client who had a similar story to mine. And I was also like, I would go in and connect and do the things. And then like afterwards is, oh my gosh, wow, I'm triggered. But I also had an incredible counselor. I was doing EMDR. I was doing the work and she also helped me navigate this. But I really want to be careful if you're in a really painful situation and you have lots of trauma and you're going through a lot of painful things, it doesn't necessarily disqualify you from what you're doing. However, if you are in a people helper role, you really need to become the observer of self and look at that to make sure you're the healthiest version of yourself to be able to help the people that you're called to help. And I have a lot more to say about that, but I want to be just clear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that you pointed out that you were in counseling at the
Yes.
same time, because I tell my clients all the time, I meet with somebody so I stay healthy, so that I can be the healthiest version of me, so that that's what I'm bringing to my meetings with my clients. Because yeah, it would be very easy to, like you said, spill out my bias, spill out my whatever the pain is that I've experienced or currently am experiencing. And so I think it's really, really a good idea that if you are in a people helper role, that you also have your person that you meet with and that you stay as healthy as you can.
Yes, yes, because I have heard horror stories of counselors bleeding over
Yeah.
their
Oof.
clients. And so, gosh, okay. And so one of the things I say is if your counselor doesn't have a counselor, you might want to consider getting a new counselor.
Yep.
I like that.
And because just for a counselor to be able to process,
Mhm.
it's like a surgeons and ER docs, like they need to be in counseling. Like the trauma level that they experience it's so important. But anyway, all that to say, I don't know if those 7 years were necessarily me being called into it as much as it was something that I was excited to do and I loved doing it. And it was an incredible education for me and an honor to get to do what I was doing. What I got to do helped me hone a skill that I've been intuitive in most of my life,
Mhm.
didn't know it, and then I got to use it and become educated in it. I got to do the work that I did and get to see miracles and get to do all this, and it helped me realize that I'm really good at what I get to do.
Mhm.
And that's hard to say because don't have pride, don't be humble. And yes. And I'm not going around like, I am amazing. You need to see me. I'm not like that. It's not that. It is this like, I got to do this. And it was feedback for me of constant feedback of, oh my gosh, like I'm I'm really good at this. Like I'm really good at something. And growing up, yeah, I was good at tennis and I could beat a ball and beat other people. It was great. But it's not a heart thing. It's not. It wasn't for me at least. And so it was this thing of really helping build up my confidence in what I was called to do in a way that wasn't clouded by the trauma
Mhm.
because that had clouded my life for so long. And so I think there's something important because of the whole Christian world, we're told, don't have pride. You need to be humble, especially women. It's like, you need to tamp it down, little girl. And I think there's something important where we work our butts off for what we do. And if you love it and you do it from a place of compassion and power and strength, and you do it and you're like, I'm good at this. And I love it. And I think there's a place for that. And not everybody will understand that. And you don't, again, you don't have to go around, look at me. But there's something important for us to know that for when you're called into something, going back to what the topic is, it's if you've never done it and it's there's things, but it's like, what are you good at? It's if you're good at art and you just throw it away, but it's so in your heart and you're like, but I'm really good at it. So do that. If you love it, whatever it is, but it's that thing is like you should know that you're really good at it. Should it's helpful to know that you're really good at something even as you grow in it.
Yeah, she just not talking about our lives very recently. It's fine. It's fine, Polly. Not a big deal that you're calling us out totally right here on our own podcast. It's fine.
I'll allow it.
See, she really is good at what she does.
I love hearing all of that. The whole having to be humble because of pride. I agree that there is nothing wrong knowing, being confident in what you are able to do. These are all gifts that we've been given anyway. It's not like we're out here, I did this all by myself, start from the ground up, just me. God was never there. It's not a situation like that. It's okay to be confident in that. It's okay to feel good about that. And it's okay to be able to recognize those things. Those are the things that we should cultivate.
And I think Jesus gives us a really good example of that.
Mhm.
Like he walked in confidence. He didn't second guess himself.
Yep.
He just walked in confidence and did it. And he's like, I'm really good at this. I'm pretty sure that's in John. No, I'm kidding.
I read
Sure,
that
it's
one.
in there. But he's like, I only do what the Father says. Like he's pretty clear. I'm
Yeah.
really good at this because I hear and I do. And I don't know, but I think we could take some cues from him. Even us girls.
We can frame that verse.
There you go.
I love that.
I'm really good at this.
I was going to say, so as you have been navigating all from where Think Differently started to where it is now, where have you seen the Holy Spirit's confirmation in those decision makings?
Everywhere. Details? I think you're asking for details. Golly. So I know when I started the ministry way back when, definitely the Holy Spirit and confirming that in multiple ways, not just me throwing my Bible down in disgust and anger and you're so nuts, God. And he's, I know, let's go. And just, I think just the path, being able to look back at it, and I know there's multiple points of where God speaks and the Holy Spirit moves, and sometimes it's information, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's something you can't even put language to because it's an experience. And each of those steps, I would say probably one of the biggest would be the process, the healing, the trusting and knowing that the Holy Spirit is laying it all out. Like it's there. I just get to step into it. And the calling, whatever that looks like, I get to step into that. And I think the only audible call I had was the ministry. And because there was such pushback from my end and such arguing, I think he needed, like, it was almost donkey level. It's, I'm going to send a donkey because you clearly are not getting this, right? And but then the level of trust and just the relationship and the connection with God and the Holy Spirit really helped. It just becomes part of your life. And it's not always these big aha, throw the Bible down kind of moments. Now it's like I get to just be in tune in a process in a daily walk with him that I've had some aha moments that have been really important. And with what we'll talk about here in a second is to think differently about health. I've always had body image issues, of course, being sexually abused as a child, hating my body because it attracted men, but then also loving my body because it attracted the things that were so toxic and twisted, and the whole what trauma does and all that. But going back and forth between being almost anorexic and so tiny and hating my body. It was a few years ago that just I'm shredding my body. I'm literally standing in front of the mirror. I hate myself. I'm at my largest and just shredding every little ounce. Not everybody understands that. Most women do. Most women understand the body image thing. Most women understand the whole got to nitpick this. I can never be perfect. I can never. It's like I'm not skinny enough. I'm not juicy enough. I'm not booty enough. I'm not whatever it is. We're gonna shred it. It's like too many wrinkles. It's like I've got a sunspot. All the things that we're
Freckles.
freckles.
Somebody over here doesn't like her freckles.
Oh, girl!
I feel like it's too many, but that's a conversation for another day.
I am super freckly. I love my freckles, especially when I get out in the sunshine because I get super tan. Because all my freckles go, phew.
Yes, they do.
I become one big
right here.
freckle. Yes, yes. I don't know if you know this, but TikTok actually has a freckle.
Filter.
Oh, a
whatever.
filter.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because people want them. So anyway, just saying. But all that to say is I believe this was a Holy Spirit moment. I was standing in front of the mirror, and it was again the largest I had ever been in my life, even after I'd had my twin girls, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm standing there, and I'm like hating myself, and all of a sudden I hear, "You hated yourself when you were your smallest too." I was like, "Oh, huh." So I've hated myself at my largest, and I've hated myself at my smallest. So clearly, this is not about my size.
Yeah.
And that was a pivotal moment. And I know that was the Holy Spirit saying, hey, this isn't about the size of your body. This is about your mind. This is about what you've been groomed, trained to believe about yourself and turning on yourself and beating yourself up because you think that's the safest thing to do.
Mm.
And it was like, okay, like literally that moment, that was probably four-ish years ago. And this is after I had done like all this trauma work and food I had very much used as a comfort. I was like doing all this. I was like, I think I will eat my tears away. Thank you. Like, just give me all the Mexican food. I'm fine. But it was this thing that was that pivotal moment and change that really awakened my mind and my heart and my body. Because I've done every single diet under the sun, and it's always been about I've got to be the size, I've got to gosh, and when I get that size, now I still have dimples on my thighs, and I've got this, and it's like I've got stretch marks, and it's but it didn't matter. I always hated my body,
Mm.
always until that moment. So
Wow.
yeah, that's
Yes.
where I would think the Holy Spirit has just yeah. Is there any other direction with that question that you're after personally, Denise?
I was going to say that there was a good 30 seconds where I think I said those very same words to Brooke about myself in a recent conversation. I don't know that it was actually on an episode. I think we were just having a conversation where same thing, like I've always had body issues. And even when I was a runner and did a marathon and I was down to, I think I was fluctuating between a size 4 and 6 in some dresses. And even then, right, there was still stuff I didn't like. And so then my weight's always fluctuated in my life. And I think only a few years ago did I finally make that connection where, because I remember looking at those old pictures and I was like, I didn't even like myself then. So it's not the size, it's not a particular thing that I'm after. It's definitely what's in my head.
Yeah.
So I can definitely resonate with that for sure. And we can book a session for us after this.
That's great. I would
Um,
have said that. Yeah.
Also, I was gonna say, from what you were talking about and what you've mentioned a few times now on this episode, that even though God has been maneuvering you and directing you into different areas and then ministries and then the Think Differently Academy, you were still working through your own stuff. And I just wanted to pull that out. And for anyone who's listening, that sometimes we get caught up in the whole, once I'm fully healed, then I'll go ahead and start something. I can't yet because I'm still dealing with this. When it's, and that's not the case. A lot of times God will, on purpose, intentionally, put us in these positions and call us into something while he's still working on us. And that's part of the calling in and of itself, because that's the value that we can now bring to the table in whatever it is we're doing.
100%. The picture I have when you said that is back in the day when we would have knee surgeries or knee replacements or hip surgeries, like you would have it and then you would lay in a hospital bed for 6 weeks and literally everything would atrophy. Now you get out, from what I understand, you get out of surgery, knee surgery or hip surgery, and they're moving your knee immediately.
Yep.
Like it is you just had surgery, you just had the replacement, and now they've learned that immediate movement, and like I think there are even machines that do it for you, is in real time you're healing by moving. And I think if we're stagnant and thinking that we have to arrive, then we will atrophy in the process of healing. And we may get all this knowledge and get all of this healing, but then we go to start and we're atrophied because we haven't been moving. And so I think it's being mindful and paying attention to your process and what you're getting into. But I think it's also very important to go, if you stop, forward motion is so important in process because you got to live it out. Now, don't bleed all over people while you're living it out, right? It's like, oh, oops, sorry, I just shot you. Let me back it up and I'm going to go, I'm sorry I shot you, and I'm going to do all the empathy things and then say all the things. And then I need to take a sabbatical. But it is important, like what you're saying, is that we're not disqualified. We can still be doing the work and still being incredibly mindful to take care of our hearts and our souls and making sure the people that are in front of us are also being taken care of. But forward motion is so important so we don't atrophy.
So, in talking about this whole body image issues that I have, or that you've also mentioned too, sounds like that is where things have been going for Tada. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, I would love to tell you about that.
Yay!
I'm having so much fun. The number one question searched on the internet is, why can't I lose weight? That's the number one question. And that's just nuts. And the diet industry answers it by problem solving, not by heart solving. And they're like, do this diet, eat cabbage for a month, lose 1,000 pounds. I was like, take this shot, do these supplements, all of this. And so the diet industry feeds the emotional pain that we all have, not all, but so many of us have with body image and all this. There's clearly something wrong with me because this doesn't work, or I'm starving myself, I'm doing this thing. And so the thing that the diet industry does not answer is that emotional question. And that emotional question, when you stand in front of a mirror and go, oh crud, I've hated myself at my largest, but I've also hated myself at my smallest. This isn't about my diet. this is about my mind and my heart and my relationships and my story and the trauma and all of that. And so literally it'll be 3 years this summer. Bob and I were driving back from some conference, I can't remember. And we were driving back and I was like, we need to do a health thing. Because if we're mind, body, spirit, it's like the body's got to be a part of it. And we can't be gorging on cheeseburgers and burritos and Coca-Colas and think that we're taking care of our body in the best way. But I'm not going to go tell people that they can't gorge on cheeseburgers and Coca-Colas and French fries because it's not about that. It's now there's an addiction element to that kind of food, but that's that gets talked about, but it's not about this is what you need to eat, this is how you need to eat, this is how much you need to move. It is not that. TDAH is TDAH. Ta-da! Think differently about health. And it is a mindset shift into understanding your own health journey and what's behind the belief systems of your emotions, of your needs. Do you have neglect? Do you have trauma? What did you learn in your family of origin? What is your internal dialogue? What is dependence to independence? All of these different elements. Like, what the heck is going on in your brain? Are you living in survival or are you living in connection? And when we're living in connection, so many times we make a different choice that satisfies our body in a way that brings life and connects us to a place of whole health. And so Today got birthed 3 years ago this summer and branded it 3 years ago. I did not launch it until it'll be August, will be the beta group that I ran, August 2024, because I did not feel congruent with my message. And I'm like, I love this message and I feel like it's something that's in my heart that I want to do, but I don't feel congruent with it yet. I know I'll get there because it's something I'm incredibly passionate about, but it wasn't until last summer that I'm finally like, I'm there. I'm ready to do this thing and I'm ready to launch it. And so it is something that when I ran the beta group, it was so much fun. And right now it's an 8-week process that you can go through a cohort, you can go through a group, or you can go through it by yourself. And so there's just different ways that you can go through it. And there's a workbook, Brooke will tag it, but my little to-do workbook that I accidentally wrote. I started writing all this stuff. I'm like, oh, I wrote a book. I was not planning on writing a book, but I wrote a book. And Brooke was my editor. She was amazing. And so it made me sound really good, which is helpful. That's what a good editor does. But it is just something that like the stories that are coming out of, we're wrapping up it's our 4th 8-week cohort. I launched its own website that'll all be in the show notes, I'm sure. But it is something that I'm having so much fun doing. And people, they're coming because I want to lose weight or I want to love my body more. And they're walking away going, I actually live peripherally now instead of hyper focused. And I'm seeing life the way I've never seen it before. And other stories is I was upset. I did this thing and I had all this anxiety, but I recognized what it was. And I realized instead of going to the kitchen and eating all of the anxiety, I sat down and processed it out loud. And they were like, and then relationally with my husband or my friend, it changed everything. And so it's not about these rules and regulations. It's about shifting the thought process and how you see yourself, how you experience the environment, understanding what the heck is going on in your brain is like survival or connection, and how to navigate that and learn it in a way that then the choices that you make based on your health come from a completely different place. Mm-hmm. And from that, your body gets to be the healthiest version and you stop looking at every little detail and hate yourself. And instead you love yourself to health. Boom. That. And it's so freaking fun.
That sounds amazing.
It is amazing. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I was part of the beta group. It is phenomenal, because I was one of those people too. I used to be, at one point in my life, I was a size 0 and I hated myself. It doesn't matter what number is on the tag on the clothing. I have hated something about myself for so long. And when I heard that Polly was doing this, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it, because this sounds like something that even doesn't matter where you are, what your reason is for coming to it. If you want to lose weight, if you just want to be healthier, or what, it doesn't matter. Whatever your reason is, do it. It's fantastic. Just sign up.
Just do it already.
Do it.
I agree. Yeah. And it's a community too, which I love. So I know there's some people in the community that have gone through it. This is their 4th time to go through it. And it's like, because they're like, each time I go through it, I get something new, and the healing that happens is just even deeper and even deeper. And I'm about to launch level 2 in August to go deeper and deeper. And it's so fun. And the community is so beautiful and lovely and supportive and amazing. And the stories are just, again, it's like you get to sit in front of miracles. It's so fun. So fun.
Speaking of sitting in front of miracles.
Great segue.
So I know, right? Try. You set me up great on that one. So you have known Brooke for some time now. You guys work together, not just as far as like you editing, but actually working together and healing together. Seeing her live out her calling, what is that like for you?
Oh, I get to talk about Brooke. Yeah.
It's not uncomfortable or anything. It's fine.
I love it. She'll be fine. Go ahead.
Up to the connected part of your brain and receive. It is so fun. It's been a fun transformation to watch, because what I love, Brooke, is that you do your work. It's like, okay, I have this question, and then you do the work, and getting pushed up against kind of some of the deep belief systems of, I don't know. And I think my favorite thing is the moment, because it's a culmination of all the things that you've done to really know yourself and to step into who you know you're created to be at this time.
Yeah.
Who knows what is to come, but what you're doing right now is that thing that is in you that you do so beautifully. And I think one of the things I've always noticed about you is your ability to see others, not through your eyes, but through God's eyes. And to do that, people know that. People feel that difference. And you have a lot of knowledge, and you have a lot of ability and a foundation just to build off of. However, the way that you see people is powerful, and that changes lives. And I think the thing that has been the most fun is to watch you really step in to know that you are very good at what you do. And I know it's squirmy.
You know what, though? It's not as squirmy as it used to be. And I have you to thank for that, seriously. Because when you were talking earlier about, you can say, yeah, I'm good at this. I would never have said those words. There was no way those words would have ever, because you're not supposed to be arrogant. You're not supposed to be prideful. And thank you that you've taught me and shown me and helped me have conversations with God that's not what that is. It's not pride. It's, no, this is how God made me, and this is what he's made me to do. And I do have a great foundation to work from, because I was think differently trained.
That is true. No.
I love it. It works if you work it, guys.
That's right.
It all comes back around.
Yeah.
But it has been very fun watching you. And it's not just been a me to Brooke. Like, you have so spoken into me and helped me and loved me. And I remember it was pretty recently, you pushed back on something. Like, hey, can I say something? Did you hear what you just said? I was like, oh, I did. I should just say that. Yeah, look at that. That's what I love, is like, it's just this, it's this togetherness that we get to help each other. So yeah.
Iron sharpens iron.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. And she's been very healing for me too. She's been a very healing friend too.
I bet. Yeah. I bet you are too. to
Yes,
her.
she is.
Oh.
Yes, she is.
That's not a one-way street either. So.
Mm-mm. No.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. That's not,
Thank you, Polly.
I don't feel weird.
Sincerely.
No, thank you. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many. I would like to do 2 more podcasts out of just what we were talking about today. Seriously. But thank you so much for your time, for talking to us. I have heard nothing but wonderful things about you, and I am so excited to have finally formally met you, albeit virtually. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and trusting us with that. And to our viewers, I hope that anything that we've talked about today could have been helpful in some way or resonated with you in some way, that everyone's story is different and there's purpose and healing in all of it.
100%. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I really appreciate it. And I love y'all's energy. And this was a really fun interview.
Polly, thank you so much for joining us. This has been truly a pleasure having you on the podcast with us. And she's Denise. I'm Brooke. Prodigal Peas in a Pod. Thanks for joining us, and tune in next time.
Okay, bye. Due to the nature of some of the content, we wanted to provide some resources for you or anyone you may know that is still in the industry.
The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. And Treasures LA is support for women who are still in the industry, and you can find them at iamatreasure.com.
Since recording this episode, Polly Hamp has launched her own podcast called Be Ablaze, and you can find her and that podcast the same way you find us.
Be sure to check the description for all of those details. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Prodigal Peas in a Pod. Not sure how you found us today, but be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on any other episodes. And you can find us on most podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Amazon Music.
If anything we said today resonated or got you thinking deeper, share it with a friend, leave a comment, or shoot us an email over at prodigalpeas@gmail.com. If you didn't know, this podcast is a merge of both of our brands. I am Misfit of Creation, a soul food ministry. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. I also have an Etsy shop where you can find downloadable tools that will help you grow in your walk with God. And that is misfitofcreation.etsy.com. And if you're looking to be a monthly supporter, you can also find me on Patreon.
My mental and emotional health coaching practice is Blueprint Heart and Mind Coaching, and you can find me at blueprintheartandmind.com, where I have a blog, and you can also make an appointment with me. And you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
I think I get it now. I need to be myself because a copycat can only do so well. In love with everything that makes me who I am. Don't need a backup plan. I hope they understand that I'm doing better today. I got me a mission, I got some fruition. You down to stay out the way. Can't seek validation from people who hating. I got my mentality straight. Shout out to God, I've been keeping the first. He been working and paving the way. And now I can guarantee you that's the way to live, way to live. Promise that's the way to live, way to live. Promise that's the way to live.
Nice. Bye. That's spelled out like K. Bye.